Hey everybody, it's War Priest here. Welcome to episode 2 of the Destiny Truthcast, where we here at the DTC take feedback from you, the community, on the forums who have a shared interest in the Destiny game and express your concerns and interests and feedback directly to Bungie through our show to get your voices heard. In this episode, we have Lost Souls. How you doing, Souls?
What's going on?
What's going on? Same old, bro. Same old. We have Jay Stevenson, Town. Jay Stevenson, Town. I always got to put the town on there. Jay, how's it going, dude?
Very good, man. How you guys doing?
Good. We have Wounded Badger. Badger?
Thanks for having me back.
It's good to have you, dude. We got Carnival Law back. Carnival, how's it going?
Hey, it's going great. Hey, War Priest.
Hey. All right, and we have to make mention of this. We have the most important people on here. You guys, the community, okay? So, moving forward, first, I'd like to express the DTC's sympathies to those who recently lost their loved ones and recently those souls on Metrojet Flight 9268, as our prayers and hearts go out to those brethren and their families and friends. In these moments of loss, we are going to pause briefly for a moment of silence for those that were lost and give recognition to those families and friends and their loved ones. So we're just going to have a brief moment of pause here, guys. Alright, thank you very much. So, moving forward, we're going to start with just a basic topic, guys, because this has been one hell of a week. You know, we've actually gone through the feedback that the community's been submitting, and man, I'm not gonna lie, we got a ton of community feedback this week, and I for one am extremely grateful for that community who stepped forward and expressed true shared interest in what they would like to get out there for Bungie to hear and to consider. That community that took the time was, I'm sorry, that was really inspiring to me, as a ton of feedback made its way to my mailbox. And I met some community that brought about a huge newly found respect for those struggling with the issues in the game and the patience and understanding that they have towards Bungie. These guys and gals really have a deep sense of what needs to be done in Destiny. So I, for one, I'm grateful. So a heartfelt thank you from me personally, myself, to that truly fantastic group in the great ways that they were expressing their true and genuine shared interests, who, you know, honestly seem like they have the best of intentions. So I gotta ask you guys, is there anything that anybody here wants to add to that? Because I witnessed a lot, and what did you guys witness this week pertaining to the true shared interest in the community with feedback? Like, who wants to share?
It was pretty awesome. Got a lot of messages asking when the next episode would be. Seemed to be a lot of interest from people. Had our first community submitted kind of fan piece from Lord Zoltan, and that was unexpected and really awesome to see. So
you beat me to it, dude.
That was awesome.
Cool.
That was just, I'm gonna drop the F-bomb. That was fucking awesome.
Deal with it.
That was fucking awesome right there. Anybody else?
I'll just second that. Thank you. Really. I mean, it's so cool when you because when we sat down to kind of put this together, you never know quite how it's going to be received, and we knew why we wanted to do it, and we felt like there were folks out there who, would get something from it. And it was like Souls. It was just awesome to get messages and stuff from folks just saying, "Hey, really appreciated it, enjoyed listening. Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that?" And yeah, I mean, it confirms that there are a lot of people in this community who really are interested in making this game better.
What about you, Badger? Were you taken back a little bit, just a little bit, by the crowd?
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I won't call them naysayers because that would be unfair. And I mean, I knew there would be some skepticism regarding, our allegiance to our train of thought with Destiny, but I think it got squared away pretty quickly so that everyone would understand that, yeah, we're all friends and we play and we enjoy the game, but we don't all agree on the topics, and I think that was a major focus and concern at least initially I saw.
I'm sorry, dude. I have to interject because I just gotta say it, man. Pertaining to feedback, sarcasm inbound, okay? If you can't submit good feedback, like real feedback, I'm talking about feedback about the game, get good or get wrecked. Like, to me, if that... seriously, man, get good or get wrecked.
I love it you used get good and wrecked in the context of feedback. That's rad.
It is. It's the truth. I mean, don't just come on the forums and say they could do a better job. No, it's more than that. You know, put the feedback, put some thought into it, and give that feedback. That's what Bungie needs, and we're trying to get your voice heard. So give that good feedback, man. Give it to us. You know, if you feel like Bungie's not listening, man, use us. Use us. Seriously, use us, you know? Stevenson, what about you? What about the feedback this past week? I know that you were all over that stuff, man. I saw you everywhere.
Yeah, man. I like, since day one, I've always given a lot of feedback, but, everyone has something, productive to say. Well, not everyone, but, a lot of people want to see everything, evolve better, and YouTube video, which was so awesome, man. It got a bunch of views. Of the first cast, that was really cool, and man, people are being really positive, and it's it's great.
Yeah, I gotta agree. Wait, hold on. We do have that demographic that wants us to argue. So let's take a step back. I disagree. I think all of the community feedback sucked. Okay, if you guys want us to argue, we can argue. I'll argue that point with Stevenson. Your feedback was terrible. Okay, I disagree, Stevenson. It was horrible. There, we've got some argument in there for the argument
right
crowd.
without it.
You weren't.
And you
weren't
sound
the
like my
debate
wife
team
and
in high
I.
school,
We
were you?
suck at arguing.
Wait, who sounds like your wife?
You sound like my wife and I, Badger, and we suck at arguing. Great.
Same here.
Well,
I like it.
well, some people are good at arguing, some people suck at it. Unless anybody else had anything to add about the feedback, like pertaining to the reception of it. Yeah, me neither. Alright, moving forward.
I was thinking hard.
Yeah, I was thinking hard too about it, but really I think we kind of summed it up. I do. I think we summed it up really to how many people came forward and what they had to share. So we're gonna move to the community feedback now, and I'd like to point out to the community that is listening, there's only a certain amount of time that we actually have pertaining to these podcasts, and with the amount of feedback that we actually get, which is quite a bit, we're not always going to be able to put all of the feedback into every episode. So please keep that in mind. If we're including your feedback on here and you've posted a huge article, we're not going to be able to encompass everything, but we're going to try and focus on the key points of what it is that you've shared. All right, so keep that in mind when listening to the podcast, please. All right, so we've got some input here from Papa Heavy 2, who was on the forums, who was nice enough to share some feedback with us. I'm going to quote him here as best I can without messing up what I'm reading. Papa Heavy 2, looking at Year 1 strikes and raids and wondering why they didn't bother to update them. Wondering why PoE, Prison of Elders, Queen's Wrath wasn't updated, hoping that one day we will be able to keep weapons that tell a story. We've got similar feedback down here that was also shared from Kill on Style, who submitted his feedback too for us to have. Once again, like the Dark Below, the previous raid is useless. Why do you do this, Bungie? Everything is starting to look the same again! Exclamation point. This is not cool. Please read this. Make all legendary weapons and armor available for upgrade to 320 plus light levels. Strike specific gear does not substitute for the amount of legendary items left behind. And I think a large portion of the Destiny community will agree with me on this. I know there more updates in the future. But now you have items in-game that are absolutely useless and a waste of space. Personally, I think mixing Crota's End and Vault of Glass gear and tweaking the perks to benefit in all other raids would draw in a lot more attention and maybe even gain back lost players who have stopped playing Destiny due to the repetitive missions and raiding. Why didn't Bungie update Year 1 raids and strikes to provide upgraded legendary items to 320 light or higher? And why not update the old raids and strikes to provide Year 2 content of them?
My thing with the old strikes, or the old raids, would be I agree 100%. They should have been brought forward in some capacity.
So you think Bungie should do it?
The easiest thing, or the most basic thing they could do, would make them drop some kind of relevant Year 2 rewards. If nothing else, let us run them for marks. But I believe of the Year 1 gear that was left behind, raid gear should have been carried forward. I believe that each raid set should be able to be equipped and worn at endgame in Year 2. I believe that, there's people that love their Vault of Glass gear, people that love their Crota gear, people that love the new gear. Why not give them that to show, hey, this is something in the game that I conquered, and you're wearing that armor to show that you were there again, that they want us to be able to, here I was, I did this. So, I can understand a bit, games like WoW leave gear behind, but something like the raid in Destiny, the raid gear should be in Year 2.
Yeah, Papa Heavy 2 in his comment when he's talking about looking at Year 1 strikes and raids and wondering why they didn't bother to update them. It's a question that I myself have asked myself, and it could apply to Prison of Elders and Queen's Wrath as to why it wasn't updated. You know?
Absolutely, and I mean, aren't we? We touched a bit on this last time, but isn't it that we need to feel like the stuff we're working hard for, that's not just going to be an antique in 6 or a year at the very most, that it's not just be something that we might dust off and go just stand in tower while we cook dinner so people can see that we did the vaulted glass, but that it actually still has some relevance, and it can help us through some of the stuff we're trying to conquer now. It just doesn't make any sense. Something you work real hard to get, to accomplish and acquire, for it to become entirely irrelevant at the drop of the next DLC. It makes it really hard to want to motivate to do this endgame stuff.
Yeah. Kill on Styles' feedback that he had mentioned, everything is starting to look the same again, and that it's not cool. I mean, he's talking about making all legendary weapons and armor available for upgrade to 320 plus light level strike specific gear. Doesn't substitute for the amount of legendary items left behind, and it's heavily relevant because that's a lot of work that people went into to get that stuff, and it is. I mean, we touched upon it before. I mean, Stevenson had talked about the raid gear before and the armor and everything in the last episode, and it is relevant. It's not just us talking about it. It's the community talking about it too. You know what I mean? I mean, Badger, what do you feel on it?
Well, I mean, it's no secret I've got a hate towards the leaving behind of the gear, and unfortunately, everything that I see to include those in favor of bringing it forward, there always seems to be this compromise. There's also the fast and hard justification we'll let in any MMO, blah, 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 blah. And, I guess I can sympathize with that a little bit, but the cold hard reality is this is just laziness. This is not, there is no benefit to leaving it behind. There is no reason for leaving it behind, no logical reason that I can fathom. I mean, look at the gear that we have right now. The whole thing that they brought out was for us to basically be sold on our ability to, not necessarily reforge our weapons and reforge our armor like we, could do, except now they brought glass needles out to essentially do that with exotics. But to make that armor different by attribute only, if that makes sense, well, how would that be any different by just letting us use our older gear? And, totally agree. I mean, who wants to stand around in the tower and go, hey, look at me? Is it is this a game of validation now? Or is this a game to get out there and kick some butt?
Yeah.
Throwing it out there.
Yeah. Now, not to cut you off, but Stevenson, I know where you stood from the last episode pertaining to the raid gear. I know how you feel about it. I listened to that podcast multiple times, and I heard everybody's points of view on it. Do you think that those items are completely useless and a waste of space?
Well, I think both Papa Heavy and Kist were really awesome. They're both posts that I personally have made before with, a little bit different wording. Other people have made these posts before. What Badger said, why would they not let us upgrade our gear? I really would like to know why we can't do it. I can't think of a good reason, especially when they have raid-specific perks. That's really, I would like to know. I would actually like to know. And is it because they're trying to follow some of the same model from, let's say, Warcraft or something like that? Should we be leaving things behind? I think we should, we should have that option. And it is, like Kill on Sight said, I don't want to look like everyone else. And yeah, it's not about looks, but the gear, I do like looking different. I like having variety.
Absolutely.
I mean, who doesn't? And really, the gear is, it's specific for the raid, but we should, we could kick ass with that gear. And I want to, I want to look different, So again, why can't we? And I just want to say, and I don't really want to get off target here, I think just maybe they don't want to use resources to increase our vault space, because that was a fight, and they've done it twice now. But anyway, I don't want to get too off topic, but yeah.
No, you're not, dude. You're not off topic.
So, but
it's all relevant to each other.
Definitely raids, POE, everything. I think even Queen's Armor, when Queen's Wrath was here, we should be able to store it. Maybe we don't need pictures of everything in a vault. Store it, keep it, upgrade it. I have 50 Etheric Light that I collect every week from barracks, chilling in my vault. We should be able to upgrade stuff and use it when we want, look how we want, and yeah, definitely be able to upgrade, everything. So.
Okay, now, real quick, going back, okay? Podcast 1, Episode 1, Badger and I had this discussion based on the data that existed in the game. I'm not going to rehash all of that discussion. I'm just simply not going to do it. But pertaining to, hindsight being 2020 and all that shit, okay? As pertaining to the question, why wouldn't Bungie do it? Okay? I'm going to throw this out there. I'm going to pretend, all right? Activision's paying the bill. Bungie's doing the work. Who decides how much of what money is spent on what content to upgrade it? Bungie's work is spent on what? Who? Activision allocates them allowed to be able to spend their time working on? In other words, if Bungie says, hey guys, we would like to update Year 1 gear so that the community can have the relevance of what they want. And then Activision says, oh no, we're not going to have that. We're not paying for that shit. So technically,
awesome.
That argument could be
Fucking
there.
awesome.
That argument could be there. Activision could be saying, nah, fuck you guys. They may very well be telling Bungie, if you're going to do it, you got to pay for it on your own dime. And Bungie is what, 500 people strong?
Right.
They've got 500 people working there?
Obviously, War Priests were, Activision, love them or hate them, we're dealing with a pretty savvy, company that's in it for money, and they're really good at making money. So, I mean, they've crunched the numbers in a way that you and I and the rest of us really have no clue. and they're going to make sure that they're going to make money. Now, the question is, I just don't quite understand under what kind of model it wouldn't make sense to upgrade the old raids. I still think that would be a moneymaker, given that everything is in place already. The raids exist. There's not a lot to write, so then just upgrade the rewards and the difficulty and whatnot. And so I feel like a lot of people would love that. I mean, I think actually having Vault of Glass and Crota's End and maybe Prison of Elders as well.
Oh, dude, I totally agree with you.
That would keep people here in a way that would make money, it seems to me. So, I don't know. It's really strange to try to come up with a valid reason why they wouldn't bring those forward. You know?
Hey man, I hypothesized on what the reason. I hypothesized on what the reason could be. The other possibility could simply be that the other. Well, besides, no, we're not gonna pay you because we're, Activision. We're not gonna pay you.
As a money maker,
It could be that. It could be
Money,
laziness.
so, yeah, maybe.
Yeah, it could be laziness.
I mean,
it could be. I'm not saying it's Luke Smith. I'm not saying that. So the question. Wait, no. All right. So following question: should Bungie do it?
Yes.
Because because we know where this may be leading because we've been following the forums. Okay. So should Bungie do it? Yes.
Your vote, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Of
Yeah.
course.
I agree.
Here's the other thing to expound on what Carnival was saying is with the PoE and all the things that we're not really running is going to the strikes. We're running the same 4 strikes over and over with the Taken King strikes. When's the last time anyone ran Winter's Run or any of the old ones?
I'll be honest with you, dude. I think I've only been running 2 strikes.
And
Winter's Run.
Go to the Crucible, and I know all of us don't PvP, but it was. It's been interesting with the previous expansions how you had to queue separately to run the new maps. We were buying the expansions, but we weren't running any of the new content in the normal play mode. So it was nice when they dropped TTK that the new maps were going to be in standard playlists. I didn't like how they handled the other playlists with the combined. That's a whole nother story. But it was nice that they were going to be in there. But now it's the other end of the spectrum where all we're running is the new maps. So you've got all this tremendous amount of content over a year's time built up, and we're not using half of it. I don't know why that we're not still able to run Blind Watch, Shores of Time. I haven't run Shores since Taken King released. It just doesn't make a lot of sense that there's just so much variety of what we could be doing in game, and we're doing the same 5 things over and over in both PvP and PvE.
That's a serious head shaker.
Yeah, it is. Actually, it is.
Yeah.
I got a question real quick. It's of course it's not in my notes right here, but okay, what is it? Pathways out of darkness? Was that the catchphrase or whatever it was for Destiny when it was starting? Pathways out of darkness or whatever that fight. Yeah. Okay. From community to Bungie, pathways to money. Okay. The community is providing the golden yellow brick road for you guys to make money from us. We're literally giving you the step-by-step instructions on what it is that... I mean, these 2 guys right here, just with the starting feedback that we're having in episode 2, right here, this is legitimate feedback. I don't see anything wrong with what these guys are requesting, which I'm gonna... If nobody has any objections, I gotta move on to part 2.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Go for it.
Wait, hold on. Dude, Priest, I'm so sorry, dude. I'm sorry.
No, dude, don't ever be sorry. I don't mean shit, dude. Go ahead.
No, I fucking paid for Fire-based Delphi, and I want to play that fucking map, dude. I know we could run Classic, but I want to play Rift on Fire-based Delphi. everything should be available all the time. But anyway, that's all I got right now.
Dude, if I could have it my way, not only could you play Firebase Delphi, there would be a fucking map maker in this game.
Oh, we should be able to vote.
Editor.
But now we're getting off target.
Well, okay, going back to Bungie, okay? This is not a democracy. You guys don't get to you don't get to have a say. No, I'm not speaking for Bungie. Of course not. I'm not one of their employees. If I was, I'd be fired. Okay.
That
so
wasn't
moving,
anyway. That was Bundev.
No, don't even.
Don't even get me started.
As of staying relevant with the information on the net, all right. As of 2014, Bungie, last I checked, is that estimated 500 employees strong. I don't know how many of those are secretaries or gophers for sandwiches and lunch and all that stuff, but you know, does anybody here in this group, okay, I'm talking about the DTC members, all right, does anybody here think that the financial resources being allocated due to restrictions by Activision is the primary cause of what determines what Bungie can work on?
No.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No,
Nope.
I don't think so at all.
No? So
let me
you
throw this out
you
there.
actually do feel...
Badger on that.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. First of all, when we're talking about the money itself, okay, there's nothing else being worked on right now other than maybe Destiny 2. Okay, that's only been rumored. I mean, many people confirm it, but it's just been rumored, even by their own mouths. We've seen nothing nor heard anything that says to the contrary. Now, where am I going with this? This goes back to coding. How hard was it to make stuff compatible in House of Wolves? Not hard at all. Done almost instantaneously. So don't tell me that two dudes working a couple hours overtime or whatever, and I mean, I'm exaggerating, of course, but just a little bit of overtime couldn't fix this with coding. I mean, it's no different than any scripting whatsoever where, hey, I want this weapon to do more damage or do less damage. You can nerf a weapon, but you can't turn around and make the gear number change for defense. It has nothing to do with
my
money.
apologies to interrupt, dude, but after I last spoke with you in the last podcast, I went on the internet and I just kind of started poking around and reading about what it was that we discussed. And yeah, it has to do with locks and unlocks. And yeah, I came across an article based on Willow Tree, which is a program for Borderlands, okay, from Gearbox, Randy Pitchford. I'm sorry, dude, I can't stand that guy. He's ex-EA. But anyway, Aliens Colonial Marines was an incredible clusterfuck, and we all know it. The guy lied, alright? It started a whole thing with me. I'm not even going to get into it. But basically, yeah, Willow Tree was an editor for Borderlands that made it possible to do exactly what it was that Badger and I had discussed in the prior podcast. It has to do with locks and unlocks that make it possible for you to take lines of code and apply them to other items in the game, and specifically, shaders. It was exactly as you discussed. You unlock it, and it was able to be placed on something else. So with what you're discussing with the code, yeah, it's there. It applies. So yeah, unlocking the stuff and making it so you can bring it into year 2. Yeah, they could have. They could have.
Oh, I mean, and if it really is that hard, to pay overtime, let's drop the mouthpieces like certain people that say deal with it. Are you really?
I like that.
I mean,
yeah.
I know that's kind of a hateful thing, but I mean, it's one of those things,
it's not
man,
hateful,
where
dude.
it's
It's
like,
the truth.
Yeah, no, and it is, but it's hard for people to take you serious, especially when you try to see both sides of the argument in the forums. And I really do. When somebody agrees or disagrees with me, I try to see both sides. And it's but then you get from the professionals, if you will, the most immature responses that you could possibly imagine.
Well, you're talking about people who are professionally immature. That's a whole other level. Okay.
There you go.
There are people who are professional. There are people who are immature, but then there's people who are professionally immature. I try to stay positive, dude. Some of the people out there that give the feedback, you and I both know they suck. But they suck real good. Okay, you have to be positive.
Wow.
I'm not sure how to take
They
that.
don't just
Okay.
They don't just suck. Be positive. Don't be negative. Be positive. They don't just suck. They suck
Moist.
real good. Okay? They suck real good.
How
all
many
right?
times you
So
gonna
you
say
gotta
that?
always be. You gotta be positive. You gotta be positive. No negativity.
I think that I think both parties have a lot of financial responsibilities, but I think that if it's possible with the resources Bungie has, they should get in that studio and get to work, even if it's nonprofit, because I think they're able to.
They're killing it. They're killing the game. They're killing their own franchise.
If I was working there and I loved my job, if I had that job, I'd be doing that shit for free. I'd be doing it off the clock. You know, I would be volunteering after hours work. You know, hey guys, I got to get this done. I really want to get it done. I think it's an awesome idea. You know? Bungie, man. Jesus. Anybody else want to add anything on that? No? Okie dokie. So to this last part, just so that we can get this out of the way right here. Hold on. Let me make sure I got this right. Yeah, actually, no, I don't really think that. Well, we could consider this. Okay. Does anybody here think that? And I'm not saying to name names. Does anybody here think that the higher ups or any of the higher ups at Bungie consider that once the content from year one was completed, that the reason why it wasn't made for year two is because they just kind of think of it as it's a one and done?
Yes.
You think some of the higher ups, and we're not naming names, you think that's kind of crossed their minds? It's done, forget it, let's move on.
I honestly feel like after, and maybe this is Badger, by the way, and maybe this is just, I don't know, it's just my own opinion. After reading that Kotaku, article that was out there that we all knew about or suspected at least, and then it coming to, fruition or confirmed, I really believe that all of the true talent is gone. I think right now it's a scramble to hire said talent for the next installment or whatever it is they're planning, in the hopes that they can salvage this, because you can't just piece things or take things apart and then piece them back together the way that it was done. And I know we laughed and joked about it in our before the very first podcast, but I used the example of the guy who programs the Cryptarch. That dude is, how old is he? Don't tell me you've been a Bungie
Tyson
member.
Green?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tyson Green.
I mean, if that's the crew that's part of the 500, yes, there is no Bungie. There's no Bungie history with them. There's no real roots, if you will, from back in Halo Day and whatnot.
We do have to consider the possibility that out of the supposed 500 employees that work at Bungie, that 100 of those employees dump everything on Tyson Green. Despite how, you know where I'm going with it.
No, I do, but we also have to consider that this is also a 500 employee, and I'm exaggerating again, but a 500 group employee generation of Call of Duty players, not, RPG guys that have stuck it around.
Yeah, I agree. We can call them the Bungie 500.
Oh God.
Well, we could call them the Bungie 500.
Can we get them to fall on their sword like the 47 Ronin, or no?
Yeah.
I know, that was harsh.
Oh man. No, that's not harsh. That's not harsh. It's just us joking around. Dude, if anything, we're allowed to have a sense of humor considering how Bungie's sense of humor has led us to certain points. I think we're entitled to some leeway. On a side note, alright, I want to point this out. Cozmo made a comment on updating some of this content on the raids and strikes and Prison of Elders. He did see that comment, and he was on the forums and he was addressing the possibility of that stuff, and of course Cozmo can't make any promises, of course, but he was there, he saw it, he spoke about it, so I gotta give him props.
I do too, and I did. I saw that comment of his. I think it was on Shoot On Sights or Kill On Sights post, and one of the things I really liked about Cosmo's comment to him was that it wasn't just I'll pass this along to the developers. It was I want to see that too. I mean, he went so far as to say, I think that would be awesome. You know, like he wants that, like as a player, not just as a Bungie, you know, spokesperson or community manager, but he recognizes how cool it would be to have those raids back, you know, and that they really should be part of this game still.
Yeah.
And so
thank God.
Yeah, I'm hoping that he really meant that, and he'll advocate for that, you know, because he wants.
Oh, I think he meant it.
I
think he meant it.
I think so too, but
yeah.
You know.
I have an image. I have an image of Cozmo laying on a bearskin rug in front of a fireplace next to a bowl of fruit, and he's got just a Destiny game disc, and on that disc is titled Raids 2.0 updated from year 1. He's laying on that bearskin rug going, I want this to happen. I can see that. Because Cozmo strikes me as a gamer, dude. He does. He comes across as a gamer to me. You know, it's my opinion. I may be wrong. The guy, I don't know him personally, but that's the gist of it. Cozmo, I'm not, you know what I'm saying, Cozmo. So don't go all crazy or anything.
You're banned.
All right, so what? Yeah, I'm banned. On another side note, on the topic of Cozmo, besides Cozmo addressing that request by the community pertaining to updating that content, Cozmo has, to what I've seen, you know, and I've been witnessing, he's been there a lot more active on the forums and actually being more active as a part of the community concerns and addressing issues on the forums themselves, which I personally find is great. So I got to give him credit. He was also seen addressing another community member, Sniper in the Wind, suggesting and posting on city events supporting a minimum of 6-man fire teams, which another community member had brought up in feedback to us, addressing enemies in the city below, where we, the Guardians, get to defend or weed out attacks on the city below. It's a great thread by Sniper in the Wind. If you check out where his posts are or his threads in his history, I'm sure you'll find it. Cosmo stated, I read it. It's awesome. I can't promise anything on this scale. I can't promise anything on the scale. We'll make it into the game. But wanted to thank you for taking the time to share your ideas. Okay, that right there is the kind of recognition that can spark and be the catalyst for a whole new implementation of game modes in the game. And that's just, that's my personal opinion on that. Questions for you guys. I would ask for comments on that. Like, do you find Cozmo more active on the forums than he used to be?
I found Cozmo has always been active on the forums. Outside of it took him, maybe 2 weeks, 3 weeks to get kind of settled in, but he's light years over the level of communication that was on the forums until he showed up. So.
Well, like you were saying, Souls, before, it's such a different style of communication too. I feel what we had before.
He obviously can't. Yeah, he can't. There's just things that they can't tell us. They can't tell us. They won't tell us. He's not allowed to. But he'll at least acknowledge the issue and not say, when there's 500 posts up about matchmaking, and not one of them gets a response. At least he's there, and he's the one that told us when Taken King was coming out, hey, it's not going to be there. It was better or bad news, but he was willing to come out and say, hey, it's going to be status quo for now. So, I think he genuinely is in the forums, is amongst the community, reads what's there, and knows what's going on.
I took a look at his history, and I was kind of like amazed. I mean, he's there. I'm seeing him there, and that matters. I mean, community manager job description is not just the community forums. It's Reddit, it's Twitter, it's I don't know to the lengths of where he goes. I don't even know if it's like MySpace.
Well, Cosmo's really active, I believe, on the community fan art and all that is submitted, and spends a lot of time with that as well.
Follow up with what Soul said, which I thought is just such a cool thing. That he does really get behind like the fan art and the fan fiction and stuff, which is really cool because to me that reflects that he really loves the game, not just because he has to, because he gets paid by the makers of it, not just because it's a job that he has to say it's great. But he really likes it, and he loves it how the community gets behind it. I mean, fan art is a particular kind of love for something. That's pretty awesome. So the fact that he likes it and backs it, supports it, says something, I think, about him.
I really think that he's been great. He's been responding a lot since he's been around. Sometimes he's MIA a little bit, I found not too long ago, but now he seems to respond like consistently all the time. He really seems like he's into the community and the game itself, which is really nice. And I gave him a follow on Twitter, and he makes a lot of posts. He's active, and I only hope that when he says he's bringing information to the bigger ups or to the developers and everything, I really hope that he means that, and that's what he's actually doing. And I do want to point, just one thing out. Like, I had a post that he responded to, and when he says he's going to tell them about certain concerns of ours that are kind of simple, that's great and all, but it would be nice, a month later to get a response for some things. Now, I know he's one guy, and there's a million of us posting on the forums, and I know he does respond about things, but, if he does touch down on whatever post and threads and all that, I think that he should return to them and give feedback. Like, I think he could possibly get that time to return to those posts and comment after he already acknowledged them.
Well, I think there's a responsibility on the community side too to I believe if he's doing that, there's a subsection of the community that responds with, well, why are you responding to these people, and why aren't you responding to this? And I think that's been a big part of why he kind of went silent for a little bit too, just because there's the hate that comes in, when he doesn't give answers, which is real. I mean, you gotta say, right or wrong, deserved or undeserved, they do get a lot of bullshit from a lot of people coming in, and so you're talking about
the professional suckers.
I'm just talking about that when he's posting, no matter what he posts, there's going to be people that agree and are happy to see the posts, and there's going to be a lot of comments that are going to be like, fuck you, why aren't this, why aren't that, and so I think that does make it tough for them to get too deep into the exchanges, just because of the
I think that's a great
the
point.
vitriol that comes.
Yeah, because his hands to a certain degree are always going to be tied pertaining to the community that responds in a way that he, one, can't answer due to an NDA, non-disclosure agreement, or two, because there is no way to respond to some of the community feedback that's expressed on the forums in an unprofessional manner. So he's got a tough job. He's got a tough job, without doubt. And you're right, because community does have that responsibility. You brought that up. There is a responsibility on our side as well as community that if we are going to submit feedback, that we have to submit it in a way that it's understandable, that it's respectable, that it's not a waste of Bungie's time, and it is. It's our responsibility as well.
Well, it's our responsibility too that I guess when we get them communicating to not blow it off, when we do get communication in return.
Well, and
Sure.
also,
Yeah.
I mean, just approaching this like reasonable adults too. We have to recognize that whatever topic someone is posting on, if they put in the effort to, it's clearly it's measured, it's respectful, it's thoughtful, clearly thought about it, figured out how to articulate it, and posted it. That topic, that issue is just as important to them as the one I posted about yesterday, or that I'm thinking about posting tomorrow, just trying to figure out how to put it together. That's important to them. And so if Cozmo, if he responds to, someone else's thread, that's great. I mean, I think this is kind of what you were saying, Souls. The last thing we want to be doing is shitting on Cozmo when he responds. He may respond to mine, and that's okay. It's still important to me. But great that he responded to someone else's and said look into it. That's a good thing, and we should definitely back that instead of crapping on him just because he didn't respond to mine.
I'm fully in agreement with you. Yeah, because we should back the appropriate feedback.
Yeah,
we should be backing appropriate feedback.
Absolutely.
Badger's not in agreement. Just because we have to disagree about. No, I'm kidding.
Well, actually, would your disagreement be founded? Because even though somebody can post feedback and it's legitimately posted with respect, okay, does it make the feedback something that Bungie should consider if it's wrong? In other words, nerf this, but there's no justification for a nerf. Just because it's posted with respect and it's a legitimate concern doesn't necessarily mean that Bungie should consider it.
No, absolutely
it does
not.
Go both ways.
Yeah, and that's. I hope that if I came across that way, it's not. I agree, War Priest. That's not at all what I was suggesting.
Oh no. I'm being very. I'm one of those guys that's really literal.
No, for sure.
But yeah, there's always that aspect of respectable feedback, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's always something that should be implemented into the game. Absolutely.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's all in the eye of who's looking at it, because whether probably all of us are the anti-nerf crowd, there are people and there's a large percentage that that's important to them, and so we can disagree and we can believe it shouldn't. It's something that is hurting the game, but they're entitled to that opinion.
I'm anti-nerf, but I'm all for nerfing nerf posts.
Well, you want to nerf posts, don't bump them.
Yep.
There's your nerf.
Stevenson, was there something that you wanted to add? I thought I heard you.
I made a post that was in all cap locks, and it was outlandish. It was kind of wild. Now, I wouldn't expect Cozmo or anyone to respond to it, but it needs to be seen, in my opinion. And it was just talking about how over a year into the game, we're still getting error codes while playing trials, while playing against hard mode orcs, which isn't easy. Not everyone has the dream team. I'm still getting error codes, while I'm at the tower, and we're still, dealing with that. So yeah, the post was crazy, and I know that post should be respectful and put out there, properly. But when we've been making certain posts for so long, and it's the same shit, and I'm pretty sure we've been told some of these, let's say, caterpillar error codes were going to be addressed, and they're still going on. Yeah, and it's our fault. That's bullshit. So hopefully, like, my post was kind of crazy, but hopefully they did look at it.
I'll be honest with you. I think that they see the error codes overall and in general, but based on what it is that their numbers are telling them, it's pretty much, I think, a given that a large majority of the problems come from the fact that there's no dedicated server support, and because the game is peer-to-peer, based on the connection of the person who is the acting server, is going to determine whether or not people are going to have those connection issues. So because Bungie has already, I forget where it was, has come out and said that this game, this version will not be getting dedicated server support. That is something that is the reason why, and Carnival had posted numbers about it, I'm pretty sure, why nobody is playing that stuff. You know, because it's got issues, and to have to deal with those issues is something that nobody wants to have to deal with. And you're justified in your post because you paid money, you want to play the game, but the support to keep it from crashing like that isn't there. It's just not there. So it's one of those situations where Bungie hasn't done what they should have, and it probably won't change until Destiny 2. So we're pretty much stuck with what we got. I'm not defending Bungie, but I'm not attacking you either. It's basically they didn't do it. They chose not to, whatever reasons it was, and now we're stuck with it the way it is.
Agreed.
You know, it's also come down to that thing that you discussed before, where it's like when you get that really one good match and you get on that roll and you're really kicking some serious butt, because if I say ass, I'll get banned. You know, you're kicking some really serious
poopy.
butt. Poopy too. But once you get on that roll, man, and you're on that roll, and you're finally within grasp of getting exactly what you need on the last match, yeah, it's going to be shitty that you get KTO'd and it counts as a loss and everything gets thrown in the trash. You know? That's personally why I kind of stay away from Trials of Osiris. I'm sorry, man. Dreamcast dial-up with Quake 3 vs 3 Capture the Flag played better than Trials of Osiris.
Wow, that's amazing.
And that was over dial-up. We've got a community member named Cerberus. You know, Cerberus was nice enough to come out and share this with us, which I'm grateful for because I've seen this quite a bit on the forums. And by the way, Cerberus, I got to put this out there, you know, because I saw some of the comments that people were putting in the forums and in the threads based on pulse rifles in general. I think everyone here at the DTC would agree with me, and many in the community, that we can appreciate what you are bringing up here, brother, because it doesn't matter one bit if there are people who, through their disagreement, are immaturely being off topic and taking your feedback personally offensive. All right, man? I myself and many others can recognize a community member who is stating feedback on point because they have shared interest in the game, and the irrelevant and personal issues that are not feedback about your topic are just simply irrelevant, man. So they're inconsequential because what you are adding is about bettering the game as opposed to others who are just adding nothing. You know, they're not adding anything to making the game better, and they provide nothing when they simply can't give real feedback to Bungie, okay, as people who have a true shared interest. So, moving on to his feedback, okay, he basically starts with, you know, hello community, I'd like to discuss a problem I've noticed ever since 2.0 dropped. Pulse rifles need rebalancing. The most blatant problem lies with a standard pulse rifle's ability to kill targets from a range that one would think only scout rifles could do while maintaining a high time to kill. This is in stark contrast to auto rifles and hand cannons, whose range stat makes the weapon's damage drop-off start very close to the user. In the case of auto rifles, almost at absurd ranges. In effect, pulse rifles are more effective scout rifles. So he suggested this solution. The obvious rebalancing option would be to reduce the damage, but this hurts pulses more than helps balance. A better solution is to reduce the range so it can't compete with scout rifles and scout rifle range. Auto rifles need a range buff as well as a stability one. Another solution may be to reduce the stability on pulse rifles so it takes more skill to land the headshots. So here's my questions to you guys about his feedback, okay? Some of us here have real-life weapon experience, okay? We've talked about it. To a degree, real-life implementation of weapons into video games is something that a lot of developers attempt to implement into the games for various reasoning. In this current player versus player meta, is Bungie's attempt to implement pulse rifles appropriately developed, or is it far from what would be appropriate representation of real-life weapons with burst shots and burst fire capability? So, is it a correct implementation?
I'd say that they're not far off the mark, and here's why. Let's harken back to the days of the MP5. Okay, 9mm, 10mm, whatever. The first thing that everybody, loved about this weapon being close quarters battle weapon, or CQB. No one ever thought in a million years that we would ever be using the thing past 50 meters. I mean, even, in the United States military, constantly talked about how max effective range 50 meters. Next thing you know, guys are carrying it on patrol. Guys are actually engaging guys at 100 meters, and I got it, real guns versus video game guns, whatever. But essentially, you're taking a low velocity and low impact weapon or weapon system and using it at that range. It's really about the user. And you guys know me. I abhor PvP. I'm not very good at it, and it's just not my cake, if you will. But it's not to say that that weapon would be necessarily unrealistic and used in the right hands.
I think that with pulses, I don't think we're too far off. I know that pulses are the go-to weapon. I think if anything, and I hate to call for a nerf, so I'm not really sure that I am. But they are pretty powerful, and I think if anything needed to happen, because Scouts, I think, shoot really well. I think Scouts are great in PvP and certainly in PvE. So I don't think really anything needs to be done with Scouts. I think that if perhaps increase the spread on the burst for most Scouts so that it's really quite hard to get the 3-shot burst right into the head, let alone 2 3-shot bursts in a row. That should be really hard to do, and right now it's not. I shoot Smite of Moraine, the raid scout or pulse, and I love it. It's really fun to shoot, but it's really easy to get all 6 bursts shots from the 2 bursts in the head. It's just not hard, and it should be harder. I'll be the first one to tell you that. I enjoy running around getting headshots, but it should be harder. In PvP. Now, I don't really want anything done with it in PvE, but that's a totally different question. We've talked about separating PvP versus PvE, weapons changes and gear changes. But that's my take. Is I don't think there's anything wrong with some of the more high-end, really high proficiency pulse rifles. Just making it harder to get those headshots. It should be tough to get 6 bullets into the head, at whatever range you're at, really, unless you're standing right in front of the guy. So, I wouldn't rage over that nerf, though.
Souls, did you have anything to add about the pulse rifles?
Yeah, as far as the realism, I don't think the realism matters. I mean, it's a game. But as far as the pulse rifles, I think it's funny because I don't think the pulse rifles that are in-game right now are as good as the pulse rifles that were in the Dark Below and House of Wolves. So I think it's kind of funny that everyone's using them now and raving about how awesome they are, and they've actually been awesome for quite a long time. But my take on it is I don't think they need nerfed. I always felt that pulse rifles should be, along with Scouts, the mid to longer mid-range weapon. And I personally don't have any issue with a pulse rifle handling at the same range as a Scout, and I really don't see any difference in effectiveness from a Scout to a pulse rifle as far as the pulse rifle is dominating. A hung jury is every bit as good as any pulse rifle that you could use right now, whether it be the Iron Banner one or Hawksaw. I actually got Hawksaw and used it again tonight in a PvP match, and I can't stand it. And I used pulse rifles for probably 4 months in the Crucible at least. Used a lot of them. But I think the issue comes from, and people did it to themselves by crying for nerfs from hand cannons. And the reduced effectiveness of hand cannons makes people see pulse rifles as the new meta. Maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But again, Scouts are just as effective. But it's not an issue of pulse rifles because they haven't changed. The issue comes with fucking with everything else.
All right, now see, now wait. I have to ask you a question. I'm sorry to knock you off your train of thought. If I mean, do you mind if I ask you a question right here?
Yeah.
Okay. I have a Hawksaw.
Yeah.
Okay. And the perks that I ended up getting on the Hawksaw when it was given to me from the Vanguard, all right, as a faction reward package, the perks gave me the ability to have full bar stat reload, full bar stat stability. Okay, is that too much? Do you think that pulse rifles should be able to have that, a full bar reload and full bar stability?
No, I don't think it's too much, because I think the thing that makes a pulse rifle effective is the stability, and when you get rid of the stability, then your pulse rifle goes to shit. Like I said, I started using pulse rifles when Dark Below dropped, because the vanilla ones were so terrible, but they were all insanely slow rate of fire. And then you get to the Dark Below, and you got the higher rate of fire, more stable ones. But yeah, like I said, I the only pulse rifle in this game that I've ever gone up against and said, when you go up against it, you're at fate's hands as far as whether you're in a survivor or not, is Red Death. Red Death has always been Red Death. It always will be Red Death. I personally don't have an issue with it. I see it as a challenge, but there's no other pulse rifle that's the same. And again, it doesn't matter how good a pulse rifle you get. There is a scout that is every bit as effective, and before there were hand cannons that were as effective. The thing with hand cannons, and Cerberus was talking about auto rifles. Auto rifles, I think, are at a pretty good place right now. I've been using today. I was using
Yeah, so do I. I think the auto rifles are fine.
And that's why auto rifles were broken originally, was they were a little too effective at range. I would have agreed with that, because I used up for anything at the time, and it was just stupid how far I could use it at in PvP. But I think their auto rifles are really pretty perfect right now, and I don't have a problem with. I think scouts are good, and I think pulse rifles are good. I think that they've fucked over hand cannons now, and fusion rifles and shotguns. I don't know that they'll ever figure out, rather than resetting it to day one what we had. I think that's the closest we'll get to fixing them.
Okay, so now I gotta add this, because this is in line with Cerebus's thing in comparison to the range on pulse rifles acting pretty much like a more effective scout rifle. Okay, Cerebus, like, the reason why I brought up the Hawksaw when I'm discussing this with Souls here in the podcast is because despite the fact that I have a full bar, and I'm talking both are active, okay, a full bar on stability for that stat, and a full bar for reload, on that stat. Reload is inconsequential, but in comparison to the Telesto scout rifle and other scout rifles that I have that have not even a full bar of stability, okay, the Hawksaw itself that I have with a full bar of stability has recoil to the left and upper that the scout rifles that I have that don't even have a full bar of stability barely have any recoil at all. So
and the scouts bounce back to your shot point. I mean, when they move, they bounce back. When they are stable, when you have a hung jury, your second shot is going where your first shot went.
Yes,
it'll bounce up, but it bounces right back down.
Right, because the speed of the shots kind of fall in conjunction with the recoil where the gun recovers from its shot. So, yeah, I understand where Cerebus is coming from, but yeah, I mean, it would fall to Bungie, but this is feedback from community. And regardless of whether or not we disagree with feedback that we have from the community, regardless of whether or not we feel it's justified, we're still going to find that feedback and we're going to talk about it, regardless of whether or not we disagree with it or we agree with it, because it's about getting your voice to Bungie. It's about getting your voice out there.
I think it's a great post, and
yeah,
I think it's a great discussion, because it is a big topic as far as the pulse rifles, and there's a lot of complaints now that pulse rifles are the new meta, but the thing with that is, and I was speaking, and I wish I had the name here, but I was speaking with someone in a post today. They posted that they want pulse rifles to be nerfed a bit, and I think if you do that, what you are going to immediately see is that scouts are the new meta, and that everyone will be saying that hung jury is OP. And so then scouts will be the next thing there.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Because at this point, well, pulse rifles and scouts, like I said, in my opinion, they are meant to be the medium to long range.
And I agree with you there.
They are medium range. Go ahead, Carnival.
No. I agree with what you're saying. I think we're the only place where I would kind of get back to what Badger was saying a bit of, and what I was saying a bit of too, is the only thing that that bothers me a little bit with scouts, and I completely understand we're playing a game full of space magic, and so it can be so pointless to try to bring in real world examples.
Okay,
but,
you shut up. It's not magic, it's real. You be quiet.
Right. But
go ahead, dude.
But they're really, for every action there's an equal and opposite reaction, right? And so my pulse rifle should be jumping, a reasonable amount each time one of those rounds leaves the barrel, and yet I'm actually shooting Nerwin's Mercy right now, just playing around on the Dreadnought, and it's just not moving, at all. I pull the trigger and it doesn't budge, and I'm, my 6 shots all go exactly where my first shot went,
All right, let me know exactly.
Well, yeah, I would. Here's where I would agree with if there's anything to be said about pulse rifles, is that I believe that pulse rifles. Well, I guess what I'm trying to say is they kind of bridge the gap between the AR and the Scout. And when you have a high-impact pulse rifle, that should work more like a auto rifle and be more of a close range, and not work as well, not have the stability at a long range. But when you get to the very low-impact, high rate of fire pulse rifles, then they should be almost like that, shooting a laser, like pulse rifles have been, like coiled hits. I don't have an
guys,
issue with
I'm sorry, I have to interrupt, and I am terribly sorry. I just got a message from a community member. His name is Domination. Okay.
Oh, he's great.
Like Domination.
He wrote me a message, and he basically he said, I would love to be a part of your next podcast. I watched the first one you guys made. You did it with Carnival Law and Lost Souls. Anyways, I think it's really cool what you are doing, and I'm definitely interested in being a guest on the podcast. So I just wanted to throw that out there, that 32 minutes ago I got a message from this guy, just happening to be upon the time that we're actually recording this. So, it's feedback. It's
well,
community.
I will put this out there to Domination, and I'm familiar with him as well. That it is something that we actually tried to work for this episode. Weren't able to, as far as scheduling with a couple of people we were talking to, and it's something that we will be looking at. We will figure out how that's going to work. Currently, we're on a system recording on, obviously, 360 at the moment, so we've been beholden to people having to be on 360. But that is something, like I said, if there's interest, how we'll vet it. It's going to be people that obviously are involved, give feedback, and have something to share. Have an idea that they want to bring, something that they want to talk about. But yeah, we definitely want to hear it, and definitely want to get to the point where you, the community, are here with us talking about these issues.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
and thank you for messaging us, dude. That was really good timing. So, let's see here. Oh yeah, and just to put this out there for community, I will be visiting you sometime in the tower, and if you see me, it's because I'm there to ask you questions about the game. So if you see me and you have something to share, reach out. Send me a message. I'm more than willing to talk to you, and you can get some feedback in on the podcast. So I'm just throwing that out there.
Don't run away from War Priest.
Yeah, selfless promo right there. Did anybody else want to add anything about specifically the input that we just got from Domination? Anything? No? Yes?
I disagree. This is Wounded Badger. I disagree for the record because he's not level 320 in all his characters. I'm kidding. I'm joking.
Sorry, Dom.
This is an elitist podcast.
Badger just voted you off the island.
That's cruel.
Totally joking, man. I'm not even there. What am I talking about?
No,
Can
I
I
know.
Can I follow up real quick with the whole pulse rifle balance issue?
Yes, go ahead.
The one thing I would ask of everybody that I was just curious about is one of the things that I don't know about you guys, but I'm so hugely hesitant to suggest a nerf is because I don't trust Bungie would do it right. It's not necessarily that I don't think pulse rifles could use a little one. I just don't trust them to do just that, to just increase maybe the spread a little bit, on the pulses, so that headshots at distance are a little.
To land the shots.
Sure, no, I totally agree, Souls. But this is a more general question: is, do you guys, when something needs balance or needs a nerf, because at times that has been the case. I find it hard to trust Bungie would do it right and wouldn't just make it worse.
Zero faith.
Yeah, right?
I don't think they actually play test it. They just adjust some numbers.
Track record shows that they fuck it up.
Yeah.
What would everyone? Where would everyone put the iterations we've had of the Crucible? What was the gold standard?
If you're gonna bring up the Crucible, man, there's gonna be a whole bunch of personal feelings for me.
Well, I'm just saying we have the original. We have up until 1.1
auto rifle.
We have 1.1 to when they nerfed the special ammo. We have when they nerfed the special ammo to 2.0, and we have 2.0 forward.
The only thing that Bungie has not nerfed in the Crucible is my swinging COD. That's the only thing that they haven't nerfed in the Crucible. Everything else in the Crucible has been nerfed.
They can't find it. Nobody's complained about it.
Everybody says they can't find it until they're screaming, "Oh my God! Oh my God!"
Oh my God! You're getting so ragey.
I would personally put the best PvP as pre 1.1. And everything since 1.1 has jacked up something.
With everything that they have done with PvP in the Crucible, I'm limited to it, and I'm kind of biased because every game I've played prior to this has had servers. So with what Bungie is displaying to me, everything is kind of below par for me. But yeah, I agree. That's the best that they've done so far.
I think they would have got it right if they wouldn't have messed with hand cannons in 2.0. If they would have stuck with buffing ARs, because like I said, ARs are back to a good place. And if they would have just left it at fixing the ARs and not decided they needed to keep nerfing other things, then I think it would be pretty damn solid.
I completely agree. I was actually you took the words right out of my mouth. I think that it's great right now, with the exception of hand cannons.
Yeah, the hand cannons, I wasn't even a big fan of them, but compared to the way that they were and the way they are now, I'm just like, what the fuck?
Just admit you're
Like,
just a little bit sad that you get through a PvP match and you
I'm
never have that
disappointed.
you never
I'm
have that
disappointed.
poison on your screen.